Thank you, Kim. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of the nutrition series brought by Taskeep in partnership with PepsiCo. So again, this is Mira Ghaziri. Today, what we will be talking about is about how you can increase your intake of whole grain in a simple and easy way. So what you will get out of this session is recommendation and practical cooking tips from our expert on how you can make your meals healthier, but also tastier. So without further ado, I would like to introduce with me today Ms. Massa Bitar. She's a registered clinical dietitian and food safety and quality expert with more than 10 years of experience. She gained several qualifications such as plant-based chef and yoga instructor. And currently she's a consultant in the health and wellness field with more than 120,000 followers on Instagram under NutriClub. So basically what you will see in front of you is the page of Massa Bitar. So in case you want to follow her, that's her page. Thank you for joining Massa.
Thank you.
Also with me today, Chef Rawoum. She's a plant-based recipe developer and content creator on YouTube and other platforms. And she's also a yoga teacher. Rawoum currently working on her upcoming recipe book, and she's an influencer with around 100,000 followers under Sukkari Life. That's her page, and here you can see all the recipes that she shares, or her lifestyle, her yoga practices, so you can get to know really closer Rawoum. Thank you also for joining Rawoum. Really pleasure to have you on board today. So to start today, actually before we start, I just want to make sure that if you have any comments, you want to raise any question, please feel free to do so in the Q&A box. We will definitely address them throughout the session. And for those who are not able to attend the live session, this will be recorded and posted on Taskeep website. So with that, I would like to start. Of course, we all strive to lead a healthier diet and have a better health. And today, COVID-19 just reminded us how important is it to have a good nutrition and to take care of not only nutrition, but also our well-being. And this is because obesity and all the associated diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and overall like bad nutrition just put us at a higher risk to get impacted by COVID. And we know that one core or one key element of a healthy diet is whole grain, which is what the topic is about. And World Health Organization and a lot of the international organizations, they do recommend that most of our grains that we eat are actually whole grain. And they recommend that we need to eat minimum of 25 grams of fiber per day. However, having said that, we do face an issue in the region. Looking at Saudi data as just a proxy data, but this applies to a lot of the countries in the region, around 60% of Saudi do not eat any type of whole grain during the day, 60%. And if you translate that to what does it mean to your body, it means less fiber and less of the vitamins and minerals. But interesting enough, a lot of the people, based on the study, do know that whole grain is good for you and fiber is good for you. But again, there is a lot of disconnect between what we know and what we do. And this goes back to the belief and the perception that anything which is whole grain do not taste good, it's costly, it's not easy to find it, but also they know it's good, but we don't know how good it is. And so therefore, a lot of the people, as I mentioned before, 60% do not eat whole grain. And again, this is a proxy market. If you go to the UAE, to Lebanon, all other markets, it's the same situation. So with that issue, and before we start the discussion with our expert, I would like first to ask you the first question and to see how you deal with that. So first, do you think you eat enough of whole grain on a daily basis? And please be honest and blunt as possible. This is anonymous, so do you fall under the 60% or under the 40%? Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So it's really, really, the results are really reflecting what I was just mentioning right now. It seems there's an issue with the voice. I just want to make sure that everyone is hearing me, or am I not clear? Kim, is there a, yeah? All right, so it seems it's only maybe one person. Okay, great. So as I mentioned, it's 50% do not eat whole grain, and this is exactly what is the current science and study do mention that. So based on that, I would like to pause here and go to you myself. So based on that, how do you assess the situation based on your interaction with your clients? So how serious do you see this issue? And do we, as all of us in the region, do we eat enough nutritious food?
First of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me. I can hear my voice twice. Okay, now it's good. So I'd like to thank you for inviting me today. I'm so excited to be talking about the importance of fibers, because fibers are something very, very important. But if you ask people what's fiber, nobody knows what's fiber, or what are fibers, or what are the sources of fibers, how much fibers we need. We just know that we need to eat fibers. And today we will be giving a lot of details about what are fibers, how we can get enough of them. Now, regarding the diet in the GCC region, and through my interaction with my clients, and of course through my reading, surveys, and research, the amount of fibers we are consuming is very low. And as you have said, you have given an amazing introduction, because you have really summarized the problem. More than 60% of people do not meet their requirements. We need to meet at least 25 grams of fibers, and the average is around 14 grams of fibers being eaten on average. Now, what we have noticed is that people are becoming more aware. So people know that it's important, and they are becoming interested about health, and they want to know about health and how to eat healthy. But still, if you face them with the choice of eating white bread versus whole grain bread, or whole oats versus white, refined oats, all of the choices, white rice, brown rice, they always tend to choose refined grains, and this is because of the habit. So knowing is not enough to change. We have to really decide to change, and as you have explained that we have to do, we should not be content to know. In order to change, in the science of changing, there is the pre-contemplation. There are 7 steps of changing. When we talk about behavior modification, we start with pre-contemplation, contemplation, determination, and then the 4th step, which is the mid step of change, is the action. So for us to take action and increase our fibers intake, we really need to work hard on our education and then the decision. So this is the thing. Now, if you want to talk about the diet of the GCC region, there is first, of course, now with the westernization, and people are very busy with the stress. So most of the food is junk food. A lot of Western culture now is being transferred to our society. Burgers, pizzas, donuts. So people are more tending to eat these types of foods. And if we look at the traditional food of the Saudi region, it's all white rice and fatty meats. So also this part of it is eliminating the fibers. So if we want to really compare between the both, we will find that there is a big lack of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And these are the 3 main sources of fibers.
So basically, you already mentioned the 3 pillars for fiber is fruits, vegetable, and whole grain. And what about whole grain, particularly among these 3 parts for fiber? Is this the biggest problem among the 3, or all of them are equally an issue in the region?
All of them, of course, now whole grains mainly, and then fruits, and then vegetables. Because they do eat fruits, still not enough to meet fibers requirements, but also if we want to cover all of our fibers requirements with fruits, we will be falling high on sugar. So mainly we need to meet 2 to 3 fruits per day, and then cover the rest with whole grains. And we will talk about research, what was proven to be really to give most health benefits in terms of whole grain intakes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we will go more in detail later on with the whole grain and all the recommendation. With that, I will go to Chef Raoum. So just to also introduce more, to give more introduction about yourself. So Raoum, she's a vegan. So vegan, basically, she doesn't eat any type of animal products. And also, she's a certified in plant-based nutrition. So all the nutrition, all the recipes she does are based on plants. And if you follow her Insta page, which I just shared just before, she's always sharing her passion about her diet, but also her lifestyle, because they all somehow come all together, you know, the plant-based, the yoga, and just that way of living. So Raoum, tell us more about your way of living, but also more importantly, what is your typical diet and how easy or difficult is it to get all the nutrients you need, since you avoid a lot of different foods. So can you tell us more about the challenges and as well as your typical diet?
Okay, so a lot of people think it's challenging and very limiting, but once you start exploring the plant-based world, you realize that just the amount of plants that are edible on the planet, there's thousands of types of fruits and vegetables and grains, and it's just, there's so many options, but usually we limit ourselves to rice, bread, and a pasta or something, but there's so many types of grains out there specifically. Typically, my breakfast is either oatmeal or a smoothie or a smoothie bowl. Sometimes I would have like an avocado sandwich or a hummus sandwich. So there's a lot of options. I tend to prefer a sweet breakfast. And then lunch, I usually just have a huge meal for lunch and dinner. And it's usually legumes like hummus, like chickpeas, or fava beans or black beans with some kind of whole grain. So either brown rice or we've got quinoa, we've got farro. There's so many, and then we have bulgur too, which is very famous in the Arab world, and it cooks really fast. So when I don't have time, I didn't prepare mentally, I was very busy and I forgot to think about lunch or dinner, it cooks in like 10 minutes. So there's a lot of options out there, and a lot of the Middle Eastern recipes can be easily turned plant-based. So there's not an issue there. And a lot of the appetizers are already vegan as well, like hummus, wara ainab. We've got a lot of options. So I usually tend to, my Middle Eastern cuisine is my favorite. So that's usually what I opt for. And today we're gonna make 3 recipes using oats that are very easy. And they can be altered to suit kids or anyone who's very new to the healthy world. So they can gradually adjust their palate to like these foods. Because my approach to eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle is that you should enjoy it. It's very enjoyable once you do it gradually and you get to enjoy the lifestyle, enjoy the benefits of the lifestyle as well.
You mentioned something very interesting, like you do it needs to be enjoyable and you need to do it gradually. I think this is the most important part, because anything which is nutritious, it also takes time. Like if you're maybe used to rice the whole time, to switch to whole grain pasta, quinoa, the bulgur, it needs to also, it's a habit and you need to take time. So it's interesting you said this is one of the important things you need to do. I am interested to know, because you mentioned a lot of whole grains while you were talking about. You mentioned quinoa, bulgur, oats. So obviously whole grain is a big part of your meals, whether breakfast, lunch, dinner, which is a bit different than other types of diets. So how do you incorporate it every time in an easy way? And how can you always have ideas to share different recipe? Like, again, I see your Insta, there's so many creativity in what you share. So how do you always, go beyond the norm, beyond like just typical oatmeal, but come up with something creative? What does inspire you, basically?
There's so much inspiration, like the traditional recipes, there's so much inspiration in the traditional Middle Eastern recipes, whether they're Saudi or Iraqi or Lebanese or Syrian. We're known for our good food, so there's no limits on the creativity there, so it's really easy. And then sometimes I like to combine Western recipes with Arabian spices. Like you'll see that today, so I don't want to spoil it. Yeah.
Okay, great. So can you tell us before you start, into the action? Can you share with everyone who's listening to us right now what you will be sharing today? What are the recipes?
Yeah. So the first recipe we're gonna make is oat milk. It's very easy to make. It's one of the easiest plant-based milks that you can make at home, and it's pretty creamy and tasty. And then the second thing we're gonna make is overnight oatmeal. So this is a very quick and easy recipe for people to make, to take to work the next day, to make for the kids, especially with now people going back to the office and the weather is still kind of hot. So maybe a warm oatmeal isn't suitable for everyone. So this one is like a cold oatmeal. And then the last recipe we're gonna make is granola. It doesn't need an oven. It doesn't need any baking. It takes maximum 10 minutes to make, and then you've got a big batch that you can store in the freezer or in the fridge. It's like a sweet snack that's I like to have on hand whenever I have people over that I want to serve as a dessert with coffee, or if I just want to take it with me when I know I have a long day ahead and I don't know where I'm going to be back home, so I can have a quick snack. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay, so we'll be really looking forward to see all these recipes. So we will get back to you to start with, I think, the oatmeal and then also the overnight oats. With that, I will go back also to myself. So basically, you already touched base on the issue of the whole grain and oats. And you already mentioned just before that not a lot of people know why is it good. They know it's good, but not why. So can you shed the light on the benefits of whole grain and why is it really important to start taking it more seriously?
Yes, of course. So the main benefits of whole grains are fibers. And there's been research about the benefits of fibers and the benefits specifically of consuming whole grains. And mainly, I will also share the references at the end of today's talk if people want to read more through it. Research has shown that 2 to 3 servings per day can reduce colon cancer, risk of colon cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and even cholesterol levels. So it's very, very important to consider whole grains as part of the diet because of the richness in 2 types of fibers. Now, we talked about the importance of fibers, but there are 2 types of fibers. There's the insoluble fibers, which are mainly for constipation and to improve digestion. And the second type, the soluble fibers, which are mainly found in oats have both. Whole wheat has more insoluble fibers. Apples have more soluble fibers. So it really depends on what we are considering. Of course, apples are fruits. But if we want to consider, we have to have 2 types of fibers. The soluble fibers reduce cholesterol, have been proven to improve hormone balance and also blood glucose level. So it's very, very important to have all of these in the diet. And of course, there is the very important point, which is the microbiome. Now, the most latest research is talking about the probiotics and the prebiotics and about the importance of the microbiome health. And fibers are considered prebiotics. So also whole grains are a big source of prebiotics. That's why it's very, very important for the health of the microbiome. And now latest research is talking about how the healthy microbiome is preventing diseases. Again, we're talking about cancer, but also we're talking about autoimmune diseases, better immunity.
Massa, can you just clarify what's the difference between prebiotics and probiotics for our audience and what's microbiome?
Yes, so the microbiome is the healthy digestive system. Now all research is talking about the health of the digestive system, of the digestion, how we can really improve digestion. And the 2 main parts that play a role in the digestive system are probiotics and prebiotics. What's the difference? I always, for me to remember it, but it became very useful. I say probiotics are the organism because it's pro. So it's the microorganisms who are the bacteria. We call them the flora. So when we eat, we talk about importance of eating sourdough bread, about fermented food. All of these have probiotics. But also probiotics, the bacteria who are present in the digestive system, feed on the fibers. Why? Because fibers are a type of carbohydrates that are not digested in the stomach or the small intestine. They are digested by the colon, by the bacteria. So it's not the human body that digests the fibers, it's the gut bacteria or the colon bacteria. So this is considered the food of the probiotics. That's why we call them prebiotics. So the probiotics feed on the prebiotics. I hope it's clear.
Yeah. No, I think that was a good clarification for everyone. So I think that's great. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that was. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
There is a delay. So about whole grains, I have prepared a few photos just to explain how to really identify whole grains. I will share with you the screen just to show you the photo of a whole grain and how we can really know why whole grains are more important than refined grains. Shall I share now?
Sure, please go ahead.
So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So let me share with you. So here is the diet nowadays. And I wanted to show you the photo of a grain. When we say whole grain, there are three parts for the grain. There is the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. If we want to talk about the nutritional value of each of these parts, we can see that the bran is very rich in fibers and has B vitamins and minerals. The endosperm is considered the sugar of the whole grain because it has a lot of starch. It's the middle layer. It's the tastiest, but it has very low level of proteins and vitamins. And then at the end, there is the germ, who has a lot of nutrients, B vitamins, vitamin E, and phytochemicals and healthy fats. So here are the three parts. We can also, this is for a wheat kernel, and here is for an oat kernel. Again, there is the hull. The hull is the part of the plant that we remove right away. And then the whole grain, again, there is the germ, the endosperm. Here we can see the endosperm, and there is the bran. This is for oats. So if we want to really compare the nutritional value of these three, we can see at the end, can you see at the end the bran, the endosperm, and the germ part in the table? We can see how the endosperm has very little protein and almost zero fat, very low fibers, and a very low iron level, and all the rest is zero. Whereas the bran part has 43 grams of fibers, and the germ has again 14 grams of fibers. So we can see how by removing the bran and the germ, and this is what happens when we switch from brown rice to white rice, or we switch from whole grain to refined grains, we remove the bran and the germ. So here is also a representation of how much losses there are. Like if we're talking about fibers, there is 83% loss in fiber content of the grain between the refined and the whole grain. The protein is almost the same per kilogram. The fat, 48%. Sugar has increased, starch and sugar. So it's -% because it increases in the refined. And then again, we can see all of it is above 60%, all of the vitamins and minerals above 60% of losses just by refining the grain. So we can really see the difference. Now, how can we recognize if a product is whole grain? Of course, if now we're talking, if we're not buying the grain itself. If I'm buying the grain itself, it's a whole grain. It will be written it's whole grain because we can see it. Like the difference of whole oat, we can see the grain of the oats compared to refined oats or even the rice, we can know the difference. But now if we're buying cereals or bread, it has to have a sign either 100% whole grain, which means 16 grams of fibers per serving. This means that all the sources of grains in this product are whole grains. The other one is just whole grain without the 100%. It means 8 grams per serving of fibers, and not all the grains in this product have to be whole grains. So this is regarding the whole grain. I have also here the sources of the whole grains. Already Raoum, she mentioned them, about what types of grains we have. The wheat, the oats, the quinoa, the rice, buckwheat, corn, barley. So it's not only about wheat and rice and oats, the ones that are common in our culture. There are more than here 16 types of grains that we can consume on a daily basis and have a variety of them.
Thank you, Massa. No, that's really great to see first why our grains are important, whole grain are important. I hope now you clarified the point about how much whole grain are important, and then that you show that it's not only just whole bread and whole rice. There's so many varieties, and that's what Chef Raoum was just mentioning. It's not, she doesn't get bored of cooking with whole grain. It's so easy, it's so creative, and that's because there are 16 types. So with that, I would like to go back to Raoum to see how she's gonna use these type of whole grain, and I think today she's gonna use mainly the oats into her oat milk and the overnight oats. So over to you, Raoum.
All right, so we're gonna start with the oat milk and with the granola, and then at the end I'm gonna do the overnight oats because I'm gonna use the milk we're gonna make at the beginning. So first we have here 4 cups of water. I like to use cold water so I can have it nice and cold right away if I'm gonna use it. And then here we have 1/3 cup of cashews that I soaked for about 3 or 4 hours. If you don't have time, you can soak them for 20 minutes in hot water, okay? So just 1/3 cup of cashews, okay? And then we're going to add 1/2 cup of oats. And you don't have to be exact with these recipes. If you like your milk to be on the creamier side, you can add more oats. If you like your milk to be on the thinner side, you can add a little bit less. So it's a very flexible recipe, I would say. Okay, so we have the oats in here. And then for flavor, you can add whatever you want. You can add cocoa powder, you can add cinnamon, vanilla, whatever you want. What I like is to add 1 date. And if you have kids in the house, maybe you can add maybe 3 dates just so they can adjust. And then with time, you can decrease the sweetener. And in the Middle East, dates are very cheap and very accessible, so it's really good. Okay, and then last thing, I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of sea salt just to balance out the flavor and to bring out the flavor. So just a very, very small amount, maybe a little bit more. Okay, and then that's it. So I'm gonna blend this afterwards so you don't deal with the noise because the machine is very loud. So I'm gonna blend this afterwards. I'm gonna put it on the side. And now we're gonna make the granola. So again, it doesn't need any baking. So here we have a food processor. So I'm gonna add 1 cup of dates that are pitted, obviously. I like to use Circadian dates because they're nice and gooey. You can use whatever dates you have on hand. If your dates are on the dry side, you can soak them, but that rarely happens in the Middle East. So, and then I'm gonna add 1 cup of oats. So something that a lot of people don't know about oats is that rolled oats, that are the ones that are like that, they're very common, and they're actually already steamed in the factory. So you can consume them without cooking them, and you'll be fine. Okay, so just 1 cup. And again, this recipe is also very flexible. So if you don't like any of the ingredients that I'm adding, you can switch it up with something else. And I'm gonna give you some ideas along the way. Okay, so here I'm going to add some cinnamon. I like a lot of cinnamon, so I like to add a lot. and then a little bit of ground cloves. It's very high in antioxidants. That's why I like to add it, but not everyone likes the flavor. So go very, very easy with it, just a tiny bit. Okay, and then maybe you can build up the taste for it. And then same thing with ginger. I'm gonna add, I like ginger a lot and it's very anti-inflammatory. So if you like to go to the gym, work out, if you do high intensity workouts or you run for a very long distance, it's very helpful for like faster recovery. So I like to add a lot. And then I'm gonna add a tiny bit of cardamom. So again, I like to incorporate those Middle Eastern spices into my food, especially the desserts. So with cardamom, the fresher it is, the less you want to add, because when it's very fresh, it can be very powerful. So just a tiny bit. You can add these spices to the milk as well, but just giving you some ideas. And then I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. If you don't like cocoa or you're allergic, you can add instead carob powder. It's known in the Middle East, they call it kharoob. You can find it in most of, I don't know what you would call them in English, but al-attarin. You can find it powder or like the whole thing. And then we're gonna add some tahina, so some tahini. If you don't like tahini, trust me, in this recipe, sweetness, and with the cocoa, it tastes amazing. But if you're allergic or if you just really don't like them, you can add something that is, for the cup to waste the tahina in here, I just like to take a date and scoop out the remaining. And that way, we don't waste any. All right. So I'm gonna blend these 2 up, and I'll come back to you.
Masa, we have just a question.
Yes.
From Carsten. Can you use fresh ginger as well?
I haven't tried. With fresh ginger, you might end up with the strands in one of the bites, and then it would be very powerful. But if you really like ginger, then it would work fine. It's just like you don't want to be surprised with a chunk of ginger in your mouth. So I prefer powder in this recipe. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, great. That's it for now.
So I'll blend these up and then I'll be back. So I'm just gonna mute myself. It's not very loud in here.
Sure.
All right.
And we can't wait to see the outcome of the oat milk and the granola bar. We're really looking forward to see it in a second. So back to you, Masa. So basically, we've seen all the benefits. We're seeing now with Rawoum how she can use whole grain like oats in a simple and easy way. Can you tell us how much should we consume per day, and where can we get it mainly from? I think we already answered the question, where can we get it from? But I think it's good to remind everyone, what are the easy sources that we can find also in our region. That's very important, and that are also affordable. And also, how can someone make an easy shift from, white refined grains to like all this whole grain? Is it easy?
Yes, so as the Chef Rawoum has said, it has to be gradually shifting because as we said, the fibers are not digested in the stomach. Can you hear me? I don't know why it's showing that it's getting disconnected. No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So fibers right away to high fiber intake experience symptoms in the colon, gas, bloating, sometimes diarrhea, because they are not used to digest or to the bacteria to ferment that much fibers at once. So all of the time we say we need to gradually shift meal by meal. Now also I will share with you easy shifts, how to shift from refined to, one second, you can see the screen right now, one second.
Now we can see it, yes.
Can you see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
So this is a comparison by comparing sources that are low in fibers and how we can make them higher in fibers. So if we're eating white bread, we can switch to whole grain bread. Now there is a lot of misconception here. A lot of people think that white bread is higher in calories, but in fact it's same number of calories, but always I tell people it will not affect the calories, it will affect your health. So fibers, since they are not digested, they do not contribute to the calories, they are contributing to your health. They are improving digestion, and as we have said, preventing a lot of diseases. Same here for white rice, we can switch for brown rice. Switches can be gradual. We can mix white rice with brown rice to start getting adjusted to the earthy taste of the brown, because the refined carbs are more sugar in taste, whereas the unrefined carbs, which are the whole grains, have more of an earthy taste. Again, canned fruits, fresh fruits with skin, because also skin has a lot of fibers, like apples with skin. Canned vegetables, fresh vegetables, popcorn, also corn is a very, very high source of fibers. Potato chips, we can switch to popcorn. Chocolate chips, raisins, cream of tomato soup, lentil or bean soups. Again, cereals, low fiber cereals, we can switch to bran cereals, or we can have oatmeal. For me, for my kids, the best cereal is their oatmeals, or not, like today we will learn the granola. Granola is excellent for breakfast. Sugar cookies, also we can switch to oatmeal cookies, or even homemade oatmeal bars. White flour to whole wheat flour. So these are very easy switches, and also very healthy. This is just, people can screenshot it if they want. This is where we can find fibers most. As you have asked, you can see how the highest source of fibers are beans and whole grains. And then we have the vegetables and fruits. Vegetables and fruits are a very good source of fibers, but mainly the highest are whole grains and beans. That's why we really need to include at least 3 sources of whole grains per day in our meals. And as per research, we should consume at least half a cup of beans per day. And then there is the 5 a day, as per the British guidelines of fruits and vegetables. 5 a day of fruits and vegetables. It can be 2 fruits, 3 vegetables, 3 fruits, 2 vegetables. It depends on the person, but not to cross 3 fruits per day.
Thank you, Masa, for sharing all that. I mean, it's great to see, you know, that we can be very flexible in our diet. I mean, we don't, if you're always used to white bread, there's always so many options. If you're used to cookies, you know, there are always like a lot of different options where people can make in their diet. So with that, I would like to ask everyone, after Masa, you shared all the different ways you can shift your diet to a healthier one. I would like to ask question 2 to our audience, which is, are you willing to make a shift in your diet and your family's diet by replacing, for example, flour with oats? This is again as one example. You've seen with Masa, there are a lot of other options where you can make your diet like richer in whole grain. Okay, we have great news. Actually, 98% are willing to make a shift. Now, I hope this is based on all the ideas that you came up with, Chef Rawoum and Masa, and I hope this really can get translated into action, because as you mentioned in the beginning, a lot of people, you know, want to have a healthier diet and healthier nutrition, but it's good that people are willing to make it. It's just a matter of how can we start this routine for ourselves, but also for our family. So there is a question before we go to Chef Rawoum and to see the outcome. There's a question from Ashish. How can we design, how we can design our diet that revolves around whole grain? can you give suggestion, Massa? How can we design, very structured diet where it's easy to get the 3 servings of whole grain? Because I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's too much 5 fruits and vegetables. How can we make it easy for everyone to do it, to start tomorrow, not someday?
So we have to create a list of choices for breakfast, list of choices for snacks, and list of choices for lunch and dinner. For breakfast, best breakfast would be oatmeal. Second option, for me personally, this is what I find, and I always write because I have crepe based on oats, whole oats, waffles, because my kids also eat, so we have to really bring variety of waffles based on whole oats, and then there is a whole grain bread with omelette, because also this is a combination. The oats with milk, because also combination of fibers and whole grains and protein, because this is a very perfect combination for breakfast. Also, we can have peanut butter with whole grain bread. These are options for breakfast. Now for lunch, as we said, it should be based on one type of grain. I always recommend a variety of grain, like one day corn in a salad, another day brown rice, another day burghul or bulgur. Frike is also bulgur or burghul in Arabic, is a type of wheat. A way of how wheat is cut. Oat, we can make a soup for oat, and this is one of the main soups that people here in Saudi Arabia consume a lot. They love oat soups. For what else? Frike is an amazing source also of fibers, but also it's part of wheat. It's considered a premature grain of wheat. So as much as we can include grains, whole grains in the lunch meal, it's perfect. And then dinner, usually it's either a salad. We can have, as I said, on the salad, whole grain, or maybe whole grain toasts, corn. We can have bread, whole grain bread with anything topping on it, or we can have crackers. We can see now in the grocery stores there are a lot of whole grain crackers that we can dip in the labneh, in the hummus. So also this is perfect source of fibers. So now already we had 3 times we are eating whole grain per day.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, now, yes, it's true. Now we're seeing in the market a lot of more and more options about whole grain. I mean, this probably 5 or let's say 7 years ago, that was not really possible. So in terms of availability, because that was one of the concern of the people, we don't find it a lot. More and more, this is becoming more common and also more affordable. So this is also a good way, but what you just shared with us, Masa. So along with that, I will go back to Chef Rawoum to see what happened with the oat milk and the granola.
Okay, so here's the oat milk. It's very nice and frothy and creamy. You can see for yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna store this in the fridge. It's gonna be good for 3 days. This is a tip for anything that you store. Never double dip your spoon or let the kids touch it with their hands, just so it doesn't go bad faster. And then sometimes if I know that I'm not gonna be able to consume it within 3 days, I store it and you can add the milk, or smoothies. I'm gonna have a whole grain in there because we're not straining this, so you still have the fiber in here and the fats from the cashews and the whole grain from the oats, obviously. So that's what I love about it. And then I'm just going to close the lid in here. And then with the granola, this is how it looks. It doesn't look the best, but trust me, with the flavor, it's very delicious. You can make it into bowls, and then that would be a very fun way to make it with your kids, and they're gonna love it. For the kids, maybe add less cocoa powder so it doesn't taste like dark chocolate. You can also add coconut flakes in this. Kids usually, I find they love coconuts. And you can get very creative. There's a million ways to make the same mixture but with different ingredients. You just have to have the base to be oats and dates, and then you can add whatever you want. So I'm gonna store it in these jars. So I'm gonna store it in a smaller jar to take with me if I'm going somewhere. and then this one just to store in the freezer. You can also put this in a bowl and add milk on top of it and have it as a cereal for the kids. But it might be too sweet. For me, it's more of a dessert. All right, and then, so I'm gonna do this later. So we're gonna go ahead with overnight oats. So in this jar.
Before we start, Massa, I have to mention, I mean, the oat milk is amazing because, I mean, I am someone who used today almond milk, and they're all very expensive today, the almond milk, the soya milk, and what you just did right now is super easy, very affordable, very available. I mean, honestly, I will start doing what you just did right now. And about the granola part, again, this is super healthy. I mean, for the kids, for us, before we go to sports, before we start our work, these are really great ideas. I mean, I will personally start what you just shared with us.
Really happy to hear that. And my siblings, they are not really into healthy food, but they love this. Especially when it's dates, oats, and coconut, they love it. And when they have their friends over, they ask me to make it for them. So I'm pretty sure most, if not all, kids are gonna love that. So heading over to the overnight oats. So I have blueberries in here. It's about 1/4 or 1/3 of a cup. Again, the quantities don't really have to be exact. You can experiment, see what you like. If you don't have blueberries, you can add dates, you can add apples, whatever you want. I just wouldn't add a fruit that would oxidate, just so it doesn't turn brown on you later. So maybe cooked apples would work better in this. But yeah, you can add whatever fruit, frozen or fresh, that you like. And then we're gonna add 1/2 cup of oats. And I just need a little bit more. And then this is optional, but I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds. Flax seeds are very, very healthy for you. It's one of the healthiest foods out there that are very, very affordable. We get a huge batch and we store it in the freezer, and then every couple of days we just grind them up. And then all the family eat it now because of how healthy it is. It's very good to lower your cholesterol. If you have excess estrogen in your body, it's very good to get rid of that. So you can add it to your diet and see for yourself. It's also very high in omega-3s, so that's a really good thing. Okay, so we have the oats and the flax seeds, and then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of oats. So with this one, it's always equal the amount. So equal, if you have 1/2 cup of oats, it's 1/2 cup of milk. If it's 1 cup, it's 1 cup. You can also add water. I just like to add milk so it gives it more flavor and it makes it creamier. And then because we have flax seeds, yeah.
This is the oat milk that you just did, not the normal milk.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So because we have the flax seeds in here, and flax seeds tend to soak up liquid, you can also replace them with chia seeds. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons more of milk. Okay. And then after that, we're going to add a tablespoon of peanut butter. So this is natural peanut butter. It doesn't have any added oil or anything. And again, if you don't like peanut butter or if your kids are allergic, you can always replace it with anything else or just omit it. It's just for flavor. And then what I like to do is that I take some peanut butter and then I add it to the side. So it gives a nice swirl. It has a nice shape. That's just for food styling. So, and then I'm going to add, this is again very optional. It's just if you're not used to eating something that is not sweet, you can add a little bit of natural, like a fruit spread. So this is just organic strawberry fruit spread that doesn't have a lot of sugar, but it's a good step to get used to eating healthy food instead of just jumping into eating plain unsweetened oats. And then after a while, you're gonna get used to just having the sweetness come from the fruit, like from the blueberries, and it will be enough for you. So, and then just gonna give it a tiny swirl. and then keep it in the fridge for a couple of hours, and it's going to be ready. The oats soak up the liquid right away, so it doesn't take that long. So I like to make this the night before, and then next day I have breakfast ready. It doesn't take minutes to just grab it on the way. And that's it. These are the recipes we have for today.
Yeah.
I hope you all try them and enjoy them with your families. And yeah, so this is
Amazing. Thank you, Massa. I hope this inspired everyone how you can use different types of whole grain, whether for breakfast, whether for snack, or just dairy milk. So with that, I will go back to Massa. I need to raise here, one of the issues that we also face, along with we don't eat enough whole grain, we also tend to skip breakfast. A lot of us women, they just have a biscuit or coffee. The men, they rush to work without any breakfast. A lot of school kids, sometimes they just leave the home to school without even breakfast. So what is your intake on that? And what are the key recommendations for everyone listening to us, whether for themselves or for their kids? And what is usually an ideal breakfast that each one of us should have every day?
Yes, definitely. This is one of the main questions I get, because it's very known that all dietitians and healthcare professionals recommend breakfast. And they always say how important it is to start the day with the breakfast. And then suddenly there is now the latest trend, which is the intermittent fasting. So people started asking, how are you saying intermittent fasting is healthy? And then at the same time, you say breakfast is healthy. But what I'd like to say today is that this does not contradict the other. Why? Because now the latest research since the last 2 years is focusing on what we call the circadian rhythm fasting. So it's intermittent fasting, but we fast when the sun, after the sunset, and we eat during the sunlight hours. Why? Because they found that the way the body metabolizes food is at its peak in the morning and goes down throughout the day. And if we eat after it's evening or night, when there is no sunlight, the way we digest food, the way our body responds with insulin and enzyme, it's very different. So still, breakfast is very, very important. And even with intermittent fasting, they say even if we will have to take the breakfast at 11 a.m. the latest, but we have to have a meal called breakfast. Why? Because breakfast comes from what we call breaking the fast. So this is the first meal that breaks our overnight fast. And it's very important also the composition of breakfast. So it's not only that we have to eat breakfast, it's what we have to eat during breakfast. We already talked about this. It has to be based on two main things: whole grains and fibers. And the second thing is protein. These are the two main sources that will give us the energy to be able to perform the daily tasks of the day. So one of the things we call the afternoon sluggishness, or feeling sluggish or out of energy in the afternoon, the main cause of this is skipping breakfast or eating very sugary breakfast or high in sugar, because the sugar intake raises blood sugar very high and then it drops very, very low. So this shows how important it is for energy, for performance, for focus throughout the day. And it should provide around 25% of the total energy per day.
Okay, great. So I hope this gave everyone how important, again, like reinforcing the message that we should not skip breakfast. This is where our metabolism is the highest. So this is where we burn the fastest. So it's good to have our breakfast. With that, so we touched base on the breakfast. I want to also raise another concern. It's not related to breakfast, it's related to carbohydrate. So a lot of people who are concerned about their weight, about their image, they're just so scared about anything which is called carbohydrates. And they believe that this will make them gain weight. And so best is just to avoid any carbs, whether it's whole grain, oats, quinoa. So how true is that? And what is the best way to still enjoy the carbs or the grains while staying fit and within the norm?
Yes, so there are trends when it comes to dieting. And one day there was the low-fat diet, and everyone became very, very worried about the fat, and you should not eat olive oil, and this is very bad for our health. And then suddenly we found out all research that no, we need to eat fat, and fat is very healthy. And then we came to the another trend, which is the Paleo Diet, which eliminates all sources of grains and other things. There is the vegan diet that eliminates animal sources. So every now and then there is one source of diet that says this is good and we need to eliminate the rest. Now, when it comes to the latest trend is the keto diet. The keto diet states that we need to eliminate carbohydrates to a very, very minimal level. As a diet, it's not recognized by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics as a weight loss diet. It's a therapeutic diet, but still people can follow it after the supervision of a dietitian, clinical dietitian, but for a short term, because there is lack of evidence to support that it's a lifestyle diet. Now, if you want to talk about the healthiest diet in the world, now I don't know if people have heard, they can now ask the answer in the chat box, or say if they have heard what is the healthiest diet voted in the world. And if we can see the healthiest diet in the world voted over 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, the best worldwide diet was voted the Mediterranean diet because of the amount of research that it has to back it up. So if we ask people, and even when I talk about it in my workshops, I find out that most people do not know about the Mediterranean diet. And we can ask today the audience if they know about the Mediterranean diet. They can just answer by yes or no, because the majority of people do not.
We already have some question. What's Mediterranean diet? So it's good, Masa, maybe you can explain what is the components of the Mediterranean diet.
Yes. So in around 2015, the National Geographic did a documentary based on areas in the world called the blue zones. These are the areas in the world where people live the longest. There is the least amount of diseases, and people die naturally, not by any disease. The people in these areas, we call them the Centenarians, because they live for longer than 90 years old and even hundreds of years. And when we compared the diet, we found that it's very conform with the Mediterranean diet, which is the diet they follow in these areas. Now, the diet in these areas have a lot of things in common, but mainly it's 50 to 60% based on whole grains and carbs, 50 to 60% based on carbohydrates, and 90% based on plant-based nutrition. So it's extremely rich in fibers. And this is why they started finding that, yes, if these people are living very long, so the problem and the things we need to blame is not the carbohydrates by themselves. It's the type of diet we are eating, because carbohydrates can be fibers, they can be sugars. So if we really focus on the quality of carbohydrates that we are eating, such as sweet potatoes, whole grains, beans, pumpkin, beetroot, artichokes, all of these are very, very, very healthy sources of carbohydrates that we really need to include in our diet, not only to enrich it with fibers, but also with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients.
Great. So basically answering the question, do carbohydrates make you fat? It do not. They do not. As long as because they constitute 50 to 60%, as long as you choose the right types of grains, which is the whole grain, and you eat it among, with a lot of other plant-based diet, olive oil, all these, the good things, you will not gain weight. Of course, within the caloric limit. So with that, I would like, before we wrap up, because we still have literally maximum 5 minutes. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from Chef Rawoum first. what is your, if you want, your tip or advice for everyone listening to us beyond the whole grain? Because whole grain is just one part of the whole well-being, of whole holistic health. What are, let's say, the top 3 things that you tell our audience to do to make their health and their family's health better?
I would start with going gradually. So let's say cutting soft drinks and replacing them with juice, and then replacing the juice with water or unsweetened tea. Same thing if you're used to having a lot of sugar in your tea, gradually decrease the amount instead of just like forcing yourself to drink unsweetened tea right off the bat when you're using to have like when you used to have like 4 tablespoons in it. Just so you don't feel like it's a burden on it, and then after a few days or 2 weeks, you just binge on all the foods that you used to love and start yo-yo dieting. You want to incorporate it into your lifestyle. Number 2, I would say to start any kind of movement that you like. I personally enjoy going to the gym and doing yoga, and I enjoy walking. So if you enjoy swimming, biking, whatever activity you do enjoy, boxing, I would suggest incorporate that, because we notice that a lot of people, when they start exercising, they're motivated to eat healthy at the same time, because you don't want to waste the effort that you had in the gym and then go eat junk food, and you just start craving something fresh and healthy afterwards. And then sometimes if you start progressing in the sport that you're enjoying, you want to eat healthy to support that and to improve and see improvements in that activity that you're doing. And number 3, I would say experimenting, watching documentaries about the food industry and health in general to keep you motivated. Keep checking recipes online. Maybe get a couple of cookbooks in your house so you always have ideas around you. And one more tip, number 4, is to stock up on healthy food in your kitchen and start slowly eliminating the junk food. So you really don't need to have a lot of sweets and chocolates that are filled with sugar in your house. If you go out and someone serves them to you and you really, really, really want it, you can have it, and then gradually you're going to stop craving these things. Same thing with chips and all these junk food. You really don't need to have them in your house. It makes the temptation a lot easier. Yeah, and that's it.
Absolutely. Great tips. Massa, any also additional advice, let's say 2, 3 advice, you would recommend to our audience?
Yes, I'd like to add, because what Chef Raoum said is great in terms of nutrition, exercise, and setting up a healthy start. I'd like to add, according to the World Health Organization, the definition of health is homeostasis between physical, mental, and social well-being, and it's not the absence of disease. So a lot of people would say, I'm healthy, I'm not sick, I don't have any disease. No, not having a disease, it's by definition not being healthy. So we need to really look at every aspect of our life that affects health. And as you have started today, the very first thing you started in today's talk was about how stressful today's life is. And mental health is very, very, very important. So yes, we need to take care of nutrition and physical exercise, but also we need to focus about mental health, about how to manage stress. And yoga is a very, very excellent way to manage stress and really be in a good, balanced mental state.
Okay, great. Thank you, Massa, for all these tips. With that, I would like to thank you so much, Massa and Chef Raoum, for sharing all your expertise, all your practical tips. You make it so easy to start doing it. And I hope everyone who's watching us can start implementing at least 1 tip per month, not every day, as a starting point. So thank you a lot for tuning